Quilters Newsletter TV, the Quilters community, is brought to you by Husqvarna Viking, keeping the world sewing for over 140 years. Hi, and welcome to Quilters Newsletter TV, the Quilters community. I'm Mary Kate Karr-Petras, and I'm here today with Diane Merritt. Diane is the product coordinator for our Golden Office, but Diane is also, you're a former shop owner.
Yes.
You've been sewing since you were a girl, garment sewing,
yes.
quilter, and we are really lucky to have you here.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
And you're here today to talk to us about sewing with Cuddle Fabric, which
Yes.
is what this quilt in front of us on the table was made out of.
Yes.
I'll just tell the audience that this is based on, or this is a pattern that's in our Best Kids Quilts 2015 special issue. It's a pattern we call Cuddly Kid. It was designed for us by Jenny K. Parks. And the version that we patterned for the magazine is the fuchsia version. And when we decided we wanted to offer a kit for it, we wanted to do the midnight blue version as well. And so we ordered some fabric, and Diane actually made this for us, and now it's in use, isn't it?
Yes, I have a 1-month-old grandson that's using it. I had to take it from him today.
Well, it's hard to let out of the office because it's so soft.
It is.
Everybody loves these things.
Yes, they do.
But you learned a few things, even despite your many years of sewing with all sorts of fabrics.
I did. I did.
About how to work with this fabric in particular.
I did, and this is the first one that I've ever done that I have used Cuddle Fabric on the front and the back. I've done a lot of quilts where I use it as the back, and then you would just use it as any other backing. But using it both front and back, I found out there was a few things that I needed to do a little differently.
Fantastic. All right, well, let's take a look at some of those tips then, because this is, again, you know, baby quilts are a great way for people to learn how to quilt.
Yes.
It brings a lot of people into quilting, and especially with something like this, it's so soft.
Yes, it is.
That people might want to work with it. So we want to give them some tips for success. So what's the first one?
The first one is how we deal with the fabric off the bolt when we cut it the first time. So we'll take a piece that we've got here with these cute little dinosaurs on it. And unlike the regular cotton fabric that we quilters usually use, this is a polyester fabric and it does have a stretch to it. And so as you go, you can see that there's a stretch this way, but there's not a stretch this way.
And so this is, so here's the selvage.
There's the selvage.
So the vertical, it really doesn't stretch.
It doesn't stretch at all. But this way stretches quite a bit.
Much more than
And if I'm going to be cutting borders or something that's a long piece, I'm going to want to cut it vertically with the selvage so that I don't get stretch all the way up the edge of my quilt. I want to think about that before I cut any pieces. A lot of pieces that would be square, like the ones we used in our quilt, you wouldn't think you would care about the edges. This one.
These, okay.
But as you put them together, you're going to find this one is not stretchy right there, but this one is, and so I'm going to put the two of them together. So I use that stretch. Instead of putting two stretchy sides together, this is going to hold my stretch stable.
Okay.
For when we start putting it together. So you do have to be aware of the stretch as much as you can. Okay, as we go to cut, the one thing about this fabric that people are a little wary of is the fluff or the shedding. And once you cut it, it will fray or shed from what you've cut, but then it stops. It doesn't continue to fray. So you don't have that problem after your initial getting rid of the fluff the first time. So I'm just going to make a little cut. Thank you. To show a trick that I learned about. I'm going to take this and I'm going to keep my ruler on this. Doesn't have to be kept straight. And I am going to use my dust buster and dust bust down here. Should I do it? Turn it off?
Sure.
Okay. And that's going to remove a lot of the fluff without stretching anything out. And it's going to save me a little bit of headache as I go down the road.
Because it really does, I mean, if you just, with the scrap, I mean, look at all that.
Yes, yes, it just gets everywhere. And see, we've stopped that from happening on this piece. So, and this, it gets everywhere. It sticks to you, it sticks to your clothes, your cat, your kids, everything. So we want to avoid that as much as possible. Now when you cut your pieces, because of this is going to be all around all 4 edges, I will take each piece and just kind of fold it up and really carefully take it and place it in a bag.
Just a regular old...
Just a regular old grocery bag, and I'm going to take all my pieces and put them in there.
So
as you and put them in.
As you cut and vacuum them.
Vacuum them. I'm going to put them in this bag. And then I'm going to take them, I tried once to take them outside and shake them. Take each piece at a time and shake it. The wind was blowing and I was covered by the end of it. So I decided I would try something different. I took it to the dryer. And I just carefully took everything out of the dryer, put it in the dryer, ran it on fluff, and then cleaned my lint filter. And then it got rid of all the fluff and I didn't have any problems with that after that.
So you don't put the bag in the
No,
dryer,
don't put the bag in.
But just
the bag keeps the fluff contained till you get to the dryer.
Because it really
it
doesn't
does.
take
It gets
much
everywhere.
You thought you had quilter's jewelry, lint, you know, with regular cotton. I mean,
yes, and this is nothing like this, right? Okay, now we have the 2 pieces that we've cut, and we've got our edges the way we want them with the stretch and with the non-stretch. And then also with this fabric, I'm not a real big pinner when I use my cotton fabrics, but with this type of fabric, I pin quite a bit.
Do you?
Because it's going to move a little bit more. It is polyester and it is slick. And that's one thing we like about it is that it's soft. And so I'm going to pin, on this one, maybe 3 or 4 pins down it.
Even on such a small piece.
Even on a small piece, because I don't want it to move. And because of that issue, that it does move, because it's so slick, I'm going to use a walking foot on my machine. And I like something that's going to hold it down. I don't like to use an open foot, because sometimes this will curl. And so I like to use a good walking foot that's going to hold it all down flat and keep it all in place. It is a little bit hard to keep it lined up sometimes. And so I want that extra help from my foot to keep it lined up.
Okay. And what kind of a needle do you use in the machine?
For the needle, you use a ballpoint. Instead of what we would use a sharp for a quilter, we use a ballpoint on this because it is, again, a synthetic fiber. And usually something heavier than I'm used to using, a 90-14. And the ballpoint will help from having any holes or problems in your fabric.
Okay. Okay.
And then you stitch it. I use the regular stitch length that I do on my other quilting.
Okay.
And the one thing about it is it doesn't take a lot of pressing. Because it's polyester, you don't really have to press it. I finger press a little bit, but it doesn't hold a press very well. So not a lot of pressing.
So that you can't press it, it's just, it's not going to do you much good.
Right, and you want to use a cooler iron than you would use on your cottons.
Right.
But it's going to lay nice and flat anyway, but you don't have to press it for that.
Okay. Let's take a look at the quilt again. We didn't use batting in this, did you?
I didn't.
No.
I just used 2 layers of the Cuddle. And a lot of times I will use a layer of flannel on the front and Cuddle on the back. And the kids seem to like that weight, or a thin batting in between. Sometimes I'll use 2 layers of flannel, use flannel as an inside batting to give it a little bit more to it.
Yeah, you could. This has a really nice drape to it, as you can see.
Yes.
So it could take a layer of batting. It's not a stiff fabric or bulky necessarily.
Right.
It just depends on the weight that you want.
Yes, and where you're going to put it. I started not putting batting in it because I have kids in Florida. And it was a little warm, but then I've grown to really like the weight and the way it feels and the way it drapes.
Well, it's a really, I mean, you did a beautiful job with this. It's adorable. And I mean, even before we started shooting, every member of the video crew who was coming over there petting it.
Yes. Yes, it tends
it's so comforting.
You tend to gravitate.
Gravitate, right, absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's a great fabric. This is a kid's quilt.
Yes.
Great for seniors.
Yes.
Great for anybody.
Yes.
You know,
my grown kids like it on the back of their little throw quilts they use on the couch. It's nice. Just 2 layers together make a nice throw.
So if you're a beginning quilter, this is definitely a project that you can undertake, but again, keeping in mind some of these tips that Diane shared with us today. We do have this available in our Best Kids Quilts 2015 special issue. It's also available as a digital download. And we do have the 2 kits available. We have a kit for the fuchsia, and we have the midnight blue version that you see here in front of us. So thank you so much for sharing this with us today and making this great quilt. And we will let you pack it up and take it back to your grandbaby.
Take it back to Hunter, yes. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.
Quilters Newsletter TV, the Quilters community, is brought to you by Husqvarna Viking, keeping the world sewing for over 140 years.